What's going on, guys? I'm Dr. Gregg Pugh, and today I'm going to teach you how to fix that poor posture with some simple exercises and some mobility work you can do anyway. So why is poor posture such an issue these days? Like, people, so many people suffer with poor posture. There must be a root cause of that. Yep, I think that could be a cause. So why do we want to fix poor posture? Other than the obvious of walking around with a massive hunchback and crunching around, the poor posture leads to so many other issues. Back injuries, shoulder injuries, neck injuries, the list goes on. So this is why we want to address it, to make sure that our training and our longevity moves forward in the right direction. So what do we mean when we mean poor posture? So clinically, there's two types of poor posture within a clinical setting. One is upper cross syndrome, where you get weakened deep neck flexors, tightening of the pecs, weakening of the serratus anterior in the back of the shoulder, and weakening of the rhomboids and lower traps. This sort of problem leads to rounding shoulders, commonly linked with people who are doing lots of desk work, texting, all these things lead to that. So that is the first type. Lower cross syndrome leads to something called an anterior pelvic tilt. This is less well known, but basically leads to people who spend a lot of time sitting, where their hip flexors tend to shorten, become over dominant, switching off the glutes and hamstrings, leading into a tilting of the pelvis forward, hyperactivity of the paraspinals. A lot of these patients tend to get lower back pain, hip pain, knee pain, all sorts of things. So this is why we want to start to address this today. So how do we start off this workout? So I always start out my workouts with improving mobility first before we add the strength in. There's no point trying to add strength when there's no mobility there, because you'll have a lack of range of motion and you're not going to get the full benefit of the exercises. So we'll start off with some mobility work just to improve the joint flexibility, mobility, pliability, all these things, to make sure we're taking it to a good range of motion first. So the first mobility exercise we're going to go with is improving thoracic extension and thoracic rotation. This is a common thing that people lose over time, like I said, from computers, phones, iPads. All these things lead to almost stiffening of that thoracic spine. Because the vertebrae are wedge shaped, they stick you into this wedged forward position. So what we're trying to do is open that up to make sure that we can improve the mobility through there. Like I said, take the stress off our shoulders, take the stress off our necks. So the first exercise we're going to go through is a thoracic extension using a foam roller. If you don't have a foam roller, that's fine. Roll a towel up, a large towel, and use the same thing. So as you can see in the diagram, we're extending over the foam roller repeatedly, finding a section and just working on it. You're not rolling back and forth over the spine. We're just finding individual sections of the spine and then extending, flexing, and extending over each level. Do this on each level for around 30 seconds and just working your way up through the spine for a total of around 60 seconds to a minute. You can also add in, if you have a weight like a kettlebell, or if you don't, you can anchor your hands under something, under the sofa, something like that, so your arms stay there, and then arching back over, as you can see in the diagram. This is going to help to add an increased stretch on the lats, a further stretch on the thoracic spine to open it up, and a stretch of the pec and pec minor, which are areas which commonly get over tight and overworked from hunching forward. So talking of the pec minor and pec major, these, like I said, these need direct work on their own. This, even though the arching over does attack them and does work them, we want to isolate them a little bit more with this exercise. You can take a door frame at home, place your arm and elbow on there, step the right foot forward, as you can see in the diagram, and then slide the arm up the wall. As you slide the arm up the wall, you'll feel an intense stretch in the front of the pec, and then work your arm back down. This is going to help to stretch initially the pec major, and then as you slide it away, you're going to start to really attack the pec minor, which is deeper and attaches onto the ribs within there. This is really going to help to open and bring those shoulders back, which is what we want moving forward when we start to attack to strengthen up the posterior chain. So here, the next up we've got is the thoracic rotation. So I love this exercise. basically because thoracic rotation is something which commonly gets neglected. Some people will roller their thoracic spine with a foam roller, which will improve some extension, but not many people spend time on thoracic rotation, which is super key in improving mobility through the upper back. So this exercise, we lock out, as you can see in the diagram. We bend the knee up to 90 degrees. You can place it on a foam roller if you want, and then bringing the knee up to 90 degrees will lock out the lumbar spine. So then as you rotate, that is going to isolate the thoracic spine to actually do the work. It's a great exercise, guys. A lot of people struggle with thoracic mobility, and like I said, it leads to neck pain, shoulder pain, lower back pain, and always gets left out. So add this in, it's, you know, a couple of times a day if you can. You'll definitely reap the rewards if you do so. Okay, next exercise. I love this exercise. This is the modified couch stretch. So what we're doing with this, you can see in the diagram, is we're using the ball as instead of using the couch or sofa. So place your leg on the ball, bring the other leg forward 90 degrees. So the key to this exercise is when you set up into the position is to squeeze that glute, as you can see in the diagram, the right glute, to basically take your pelvis into a posterior tilt. We don't want it tilting backwards, which a lot of people do, because that basically just aggravates the complaint. So you squeeze the right glute, pushing the hip forward. You'll get an intense stretch in the front of the thigh, sometimes through the front of the abdomen, that's fine. Same again, squeeze the abs as well. So you squeeze your abs and your glutes at the same time, and that's going to give you that nice stretch in the front. You can also raise the arm up. That adds a further stretch because you're elongating the spine in this position. It's a great stretch, guys. You should definitely be doing this if you're doing lots of sit-in throughout the day. So if you guys are super busy and you're like, Greg, I haven't got time for all these things, that's why I've given you an exercise which kind of hits all of them. It's not like as dedicated, but it will hit all these exercises. That's why I've called it the ultimate warm-up. So this is the exercise. You can see it here. You get into a nice lunge position. Make sure you push your knee out and squeeze both glutes at the same time as you rotate your body around. So you're getting a stretch on the hip flexors, you're getting glute activation, and you're getting thoracic rotation. So it is hitting a lot of those key areas which we've been looking at improving. So this one's definitely a must. If you're in a rush or if you've got time, chuck it in with the other ones and before you head off to the next lot of exercises. So that's the mobility work done, guys. Good effort. Make sure you do each one in each position for around 30 seconds to a minute. That's going to allow the tissues to adapt and change to their new position. And then when we start adding in the strengthening work, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck. Don't forget the strengthening. Everyone focuses on stretching. Strengthening is key. Stretching and mobility just sets the platform for the work we're going to do next. So our first strengthening exercise is the back widow. So the back widow is like my home version of a face pull. I love a face pull, but if people don't have bands, this is my next best offer. You can see you drive your elbows into the ground, you're recruiting all those muscles on the back side, your rhomboids, your posterior delts, mid traps, basically starting to get those muscles to fire up properly, and that's going to allow those to shorten and strengthen, because what happens is when they get stretched and weakened, that's what's leading to this poor posture. Do this exercise for around 45 seconds to a minute. We're not doing it for reps, guys, we're doing it for time. Okay, next exercise is the banded pull apart. So take a band, take it out in front of you, externally rotate the hands so your thumbs are pointing outwards, and then pull the band with straightened arms apart as far as you can, squeezing your shoulder blades together at the back. Control forward again and repeat. The key with this exercise, like I said, is you can do the palms upwards and bringing out. You can also do palms facing down. I prefer the externally rotated position, which is in, you can see, with the palms upwards, because that gets more external rotation in the shoulders, which is commonly lacking when people have poor posture. So there is an exercise, guys, which basically hits mobility and stability all in one, and this is the exercise here. As you pull the band apart and lifting over your back and shoulders, this basically you're adding mobility and stretching through the pecs while strengthening the rhomboids, posterior delts, and scapular stability. So this is a great exercise. If you're in a bit of a rush, I've given you one of the best mobility exercises. This one is probably the best for the upper body to get that moving as well. Okay, so we've hit a lot of the upper body. Now we need to start targeting that lower cross and those weakened glutes. So the best exercise I can give you for that at home, it would be glute bridges. I've mentioned glute bridges before in previous videos when I was addressing lower back pain. Again, I'll put a link to that up in the corner, but glute bridges when it comes to poor posture and lower cross syndrome is a must. It basically strengthens up those glutes. You can do it depending on your fitness level and your skill level, guys. You can either do bilateral feet or single feet. Obviously single's going to be slightly harder, but obviously don't forget to do the other leg, because we don't want any of those wonky glutes. That's definitely not going to help your lower back. So obviously with lower cross syndrome, we also get a stretching of the abs because we're getting this kind of tilting of the pelvis forward. We get an elongating and weakening of the abs because the hip flexors become over dominant. So what we're going to do for that, we're going to target the rectus abdominis in the best way to prevent it from extending. So the best anti-extension ab exercise I would recommend would be the ab walkouts. So you can do these either on your knees, as you can see here. So you're walking the arms out. For a more advanced individual who's more used to training, they can do it on their feet. So walk all the way out, all the way back in, 45 seconds to a minute. That will completely tax your abs enough before we hit the last exercise. So I've saved the best exercise till last, guys. My favorite exercise, because it hits so many muscles in the posterior chain, would be the skydiver. I've given you two versions here, the standard skydiver, which by no means is easy. So you're taking the arms forward, squeezing the glutes as they bring it back, 5-second cadence forward, 5-second cadence back. If you want to make the exercise more difficult, like I said, if you have a band at hand, take that, squeeze it back as you bring your arms back and bring it forward. Because you're not bringing your arms all the way back and you're elongating the body, this will make it so much harder. Never mind the squeezing of the band as you bring it back. You can also use 2 light weights or 2 tins from home if you're at home. Anything like that which adds weight to the extended arms will make this exercise far, far more difficult. But still a great exercise. And same again, 45 seconds to a minute. So there you have it, guys, some of my best exercises to help fix poor posture. If you do these regularly, like I said, the routine should take you anything between 7, 8, 9 minutes. Do it daily, and within a few weeks you'll notice vast improvements within your posture. If you have any more questions or any issues regarding what I've done, drop it in the section below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. If there's any other content you'd like me to cover, like I said, drop that in as well and I'll do my best to try and get that to you by next week. If you haven't already subscribed and liked the video, please do so, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Thanks, guys.